Ready? Ready for what? I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. Oh, hey, David. Hey, everybody. I was just getting ready there.
Tommy, I'm not ready.
Neither am I.
I'm not ready, dude.
There's always something else to do before we're really ready.
You know what really pisses me off? The moment I think I'm ready, there's something. Look at this. There's something else over here. I forgot to dot this I.
Yeah, I'll be back as soon as my coffee's done. So, hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's laughable episode of Life Mastery TV. I'm Tommy Stoffel, calling you from who knows where. And I know my partner in crime and co-host and mastermind behind all this nonsense, David McLeod, is here today too. Hey, David.
Well, I hardly call myself a mastermind. I mean, you know, this has been a co-creation right from the beginning, and we were never ready when we started.
We started without being ready.
We had no idea what we were getting into when we started doing this. And it's just kind of evolved and morphed and switched and changed and developed into something that, man, I really love it now. And I don't know about you, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's been an amazing adventure. I was just telling somebody yesterday, actually, that what are we at? 80 something. We've done a lot of these. And my confidence in just talking off the cuff and just extemporaneously and letting things flow through my heart has just improved immensely. And I very much appreciate this, David, for that, having this opportunity. And today's topic, which kind of is we're playing with, obviously, is getting ready to be ready. And while, yeah, with this show, we dove in and we're just doing it and we're playing and having fun with it, I know there are other aspects in my life where I'm still kind of like maybe hesitating, taking the big step or not getting as big as I can be. And, and when we look at the why, that's what we're going to dig into today. So I think today's a counseling session for me. Thanks for setting it up.
Oh, wait a minute. I did it for me.
All right. Well, let's do it together for each other.
I think that's exactly what happens here, Tommy, is you and I, we have our own stuff coming up in our lives, and we think, I'll bet you there's other people who have this stuff going on in their lives too. So why don't we just talk about it? Why don't we just be open and see what happens? So far nobody's sent any hate mail. I think it's hitting a positive nerve for most people. And so, I know that I think at the beginning of the year, Tommy and I put out 3 wishes. And I think that was our very first episode this year. We put out 3 wishes. Now, not all of those wishes have come true, at least not yet, but I know that we put it out into the universe. And I am still kind of I know that I have been holding myself back in some ways because I really want to do full-time. I want to do this sort of thing full-time. And, I'm getting ever closer. There's that gap that's narrowing between where I am now and doing that thing full-time. And in between are those little nagging thoughts in my head that says, yeah, but you got to do this first. You got to have that covered first. This has got to happen first. All those little tiny itty-bitty details add up to a lot of resistance to jumping in and just doing it.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope and a tricky trap. and it has to kind of do with the law of attraction too, in that the things we think about, we attract. So if we think we're not quite ready, or we have one more I to dot, or if we have, I just need to write the book, and then that'll set things free. Or if I just do this, right? And all those just ifs and when I get tos and my to-do list, which hasn't become my to-do list yet, can kind of become our identity. Like, look at all the stuff I still have to do on my to-do list. I'm pretty special. But it's a trap. It's what Marjan calls a problem disguised as a solution. So that's what we're addressing today, and I'm calling myself out on it. So thanks for being here for this.
Yeah, and same for me, dude. I think that I don't know of anybody who isn't affected by this to some degree. We all want to make sure that whatever we deliver is of high quality. Well, maybe that's not true for everybody. Most of the people I know have that objective of delivering high quality products, whether it's a coaching program or a video show or a a book they're writing or some physical product that they're creating. Most people, I believe, want their heart and soul to go into that product. They want it to represent who they are. And so therefore, they want it to be a high quality product. And so I think we all have this desire to create something that we would class as perfect. Unfortunately, when the ego mind latches onto that word, perfection simply stops to exist. We get past that place of being able to accept what is right now and instead try to make something that's out there in the future someplace. And that really disempowers us. We essentially give our power away to some vaporous, non-existent thing in the future. And that just doesn't work in the long run.
You said a word, that perfection. And while you were talking, I painted the word perfection on a cinder block. I tied it to my ankle and I threw it overboard. Like, ah!
That's very good.
That is such a thing, right? We want to be perfect. And especially in this field that we're in, where we're helping people at the deepest level of deep, at their soul level, at, inside of somebody. When it's hard enough for somebody to open up to this, no less to ask for help in this, no less to be held. Now you kind of feel like I'm responsible, like I'm stepping up here to help somebody else at that level. And so you kind of feel like you got to be perfect. And yeah. I know that I'm just saying this out loud right now, and I'm getting spines or shivers. I'm like, okay, that's true for me. I feel like I've got to be perfect because I'm handling such a delicate issue. To me, this element of somebody's soul and your spirit is you. It's your first. It should be your first priority. It should be the first thing that that your life's all about. And so so that's there. I just called that out on myself. That's why I kind of keep trying to be perfect before I go big, before I go out there, because I'm afraid I might do harm if I'm not always here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing any of us wants to do, I think, any of us who is on a path of personal growth, the last thing any of us wants to do is to harm somebody else. That's not to say we won't harm them, whether by accident or by omission or whatever, but nobody, I don't think, who's really serious about doing this work is going out and deliberately trying to hurt people. And if anything, we're doing the exact opposite. We're looking for ways to make sure that those people are as safe as possible. And one of the things I've learned for myself is my safety is my own work. I can't wait for you to make me safe. That's not your responsibility. It's my responsibility. And so when I flip that around, then I have to understand that someone else's safety is their responsibility. And I'll do everything in my power not to jeopardize that. But I can't hold myself back just because I'm worried that something I might do may create a little bit of unsafety for that person. That's part of the waiting to get ready to be ready sort of thing. And I don't think it serves me. I don't think it serves anybody.
No, it doesn't, because if that's in you, if that's what you're doing, then you're not reaching out as grand as you can and offering your gift to as many as you're here to do. Right. So, and I'm saying this to you, my friend, and I'm saying it to myself, right? You're and I the mirror.
Yeah, and to everybody else who's listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all, every single one of us on this planet has something grand to offer. There's no exception as far as I'm concerned. It just may be that people haven't quite risen to that level of awareness for themselves yet. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. My hope is that you and me, Tommy, and other people like us can help raise that awareness. And the time to start sharing what you have and who you are is right now, not 5 minutes from now, not 10 minutes from now, not an hour, not a year from now, but right now. Oh my God, now I'm telling that to myself. That's what I have to be doing. So, from the mouths of loudmouths, I guess. But anyway,
This is the Soul Guys mirror talk today. We're just talking to ourselves. Yeah. Hey, you.
Well, isn't that what we're always doing?
Yeah, yeah, we are. So where was that taking me? Because I was before I distracted myself with talking about the mirror. There's a okay. So what kind of blocks? Like, okay, so I'm doing this because I'm afraid I might hurt some people, so I'm keeping myself busy. I'm waiting to be perfect. Okay, there's that. What else is there? Caring what other people think about me, taking things personally, that's a big one, right? Other people may judge me. And we've talked about that and dispelled that one pretty clearly, that anytime I've ever spoken in public, I've never gotten negative, right? It's always been a positive acceptance of me bearing myself. And we're going to talk about this in a couple of weeks in the show that we're going to talk about intimacy. And so what else? What else is there that kind of holds us back besides this perfection cinder block that I just severed the rope to my ankle now, so it just went overboard and I didn't go with it.
Right. Well, another thing that comes up for me, and this is a common story, I'm sure it's tied to the whole perfection thing and how people are judging me, but I have this way old belief that I'm not good enough. And it's so deeply laden in my being. It's a constant effort for me to work on it and to say, that is simply not true. I am good enough. I don't need to be any better or any different than I am right now. Good enough, and there's plenty of room for improvement. There's nothing wrong with having both of those true at the same time. So, that's my work. But I would bet that a lot of people have that little story, that little nagging story going on in their heads. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. But usually it boils down to I am not good enough. And so we tend to hold ourselves back because we believe that everybody else is better than we are. And that's a very, very painful road to a long personal hell. And the only way out of it is to recognize that it just simply isn't true. It's a self-defense mechanism that keeps us from showing up fully. That's really all it is.
Absolutely right. And I wrote something a couple days ago that is just hitting this one on the head. And I wrote to myself, I said, be more than you think you are.
Yeah.
And I want to dissect that for a second. Because it's the thoughts. It's those thoughts, it's those recurring beliefs that were planted, the seeds were planted long ago, whatever. We stood up on stage and got laughed at, or we fell down or missed our lines in the school play, whatever. And that's just my thinker. But at a spiritual level, I know we're all amazing. That's our essence. And that is bigger than I could ever think I am. And there's no better than or worse than at a spiritual level. We're all the same spirit. We're all coming from the same energy source. We're all that same expression. And it's the thinker that blocks it. So to kind of help me get beyond that thinking, call it out. Be bigger than I think I am. Okay, well, why do I need to believe everything I think?
Yeah, that's right. And on beyond that, I think it's pretty clear that I was reading a book recently, and I think it's The Untethered Soul. I think it's a book that you recommended to me. And I just happened to pick a random page where the author of that book was talking about, who are you really? And this very question came up, this idea of the thoughts. Well, okay, you have thoughts for sure, but you are not your thoughts. Because after all, who is thinking that you're not good enough? Who is thinking that you need to be perfect? And this is what really blows my mind as I kind of try to encapsulate that in my head. Who is thinking the question, who is thinking that you're not good enough? Notice what happens. There's layers and depth of self-observation, of self-witnessing. And it's an unlimited level of depth, because I could then ask the question, well, who's asking the question? Who's asking the question, who is not good enough? Do you see what I'm saying? It just goes on and on. There's just no limit to our level of consciousness. And I think it's a real eye-opening exercise for me, just to sit and meditate on that. And to say, when the thought comes in that I'm not good enough, or I'm not ready, or this or that or the other thing, I can ask myself, well, who is it that really thinks that thought? Who is it that really believes that thought? and then try to connect in with that essence, that part of myself. It's powerful.
Yeah, it definitely is. Sometimes I use the movie theater metaphor, where if I find myself in that questioning mode of like, who's saying that, or where's that thought coming from, or why am I so caught up in this situation? I'll take myself out of the situation, and I'll go sit in the theater by myself, and I'll look up on the screen, and on the screen is what I'm playing out, is my life. Okay, here's where I am. Here's what's going on. Here's what I'm saying to myself. Here's my thoughts, and I'm watching it on the screen. And we sit there in movies, and we can figure out everybody's life. Oh my God, that guy's doing this because he's got this insecurity from when there. And this woman, she's acting up again. And we can sit there, and when we pull away from it and objectively look at it, it's much easier to analyze and see where the trouble's being born from. And then, we know who the villains are. We know who the good people are. But in a life situation, everyone thinks they're good. Every thought seems like it's a right thought. In reality, it's not. And so I use that movie theater image sometimes to get myself out of myself, and to be that observer, to be that witness, to be that objective viewer of what's going on, to find the truth of what I need to dig up and what I need to, weed out of the garden.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that we don't demonize our thoughts, because they can be very powerful and very useful and very helpful. And even the thoughts that disempower us in some way can be helpful when we recognize them. It's not until we recognize them, though, that we can begin to understand what's really going on, and we can get underneath the fear that might be driving that thought. And then when we get underneath that fear, we can look a little further and say, well, what's the need that I believe I have that isn't being met right now? What is the need that I think I have that isn't being met? When I get down to that level of depth, all of a sudden the thoughts themselves don't really matter anymore, and now I can look at what's really going on for me. And I think that's true for anybody. But it takes a little bit of bravery, it takes some courage, and a willingness to say, I'm having this thought that I don't think is serving me. I'm having this belief, I'm having this judgment, I'm pushing it all out there, I'm blaming these people, I'm doing these things, I'm doing that. First off, bless yourself. Because after all, you're just a human being, and a beautiful, magnificent human being at that. You're doing your best just like everybody else. So honor yourself. And now from that place of honoring, you can say, so what is it that I'm really trying to accomplish here? What is the need I'm really trying to fulfill? Whether it's a real need or an imaginary need is beside the point. Get underneath it and figure out what you believe you need. And then I think that clarity starts to come.
Yeah, it definitely does. Nicely spoken. Yeah, I had a few thoughts coming as I was listening to you. The getting down to it, like looking at it. So backing up a little bit, but just tying it in. When I first start talking to somebody and taking them in as a coaching situation or in a class, right in the beginning, I use this quote from a great sage that lived thousands of years ago. And this person said, "Let the seekers seek. When they seek, they will find. When they find, they will be troubled. But after they're troubled, they'll marvel." So they'll clear those troubles. So you have to be aware that it's this self-searching and self-seeking is going to dig up some dirt. It's going to shake up some mud. It's going to bring up some trouble. And look, we're born into this human race without, we're born, here we are, and here's this human race around us that's pretty nutty. And it's not a lot of emotional intelligence involved in it, because there wasn't a lot of emotional intelligence passed down from generation to generation. So right off the bat, our emotions start getting honked up. Our thoughts we're freaking computers and video recorders and voice recorders. These brains are.
Yeah.
They function as recorders. So, we take in all this stuff. There's a beautiful story in a movie recently, the Tomorrowland movie from Disney, and they tell a story about a white wolf and a black wolf, and that there's this dark side and this light side in us that are always battling. These two wolves are always battling. And the dark side is, the fear and the deceit and the anger and all that stuff. And the light side is what's light. And there's a battle in your mind, and eventually one's going to win. And the question is, which one wins? And the answer is whichever one you feed. So, but we don't know that. So our whole lives, we're just taking in stuff, not really discerning what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. You know, we do all this stuff. We're just recorders. And so, you know, until we're aware of what's coming out, it's just coming out, and you're not really responsible in a sense. It's like Jesus said, forgive those, for they know not what they do. We really don't know what we're doing most of our lives until we kind of wake up and start taking responsibility and accountability. And then you get smarter and smarter. But as you uncover these troubles, like you said, David, you got to be really gentle with yourself. You got to forgive yourself because you really didn't know what you were up to. Mm-hmm. And that's a big, big piece of this whole game of holding yourself back.
Yeah, I've heard that story of the wolves before. It's the way I've heard it. It's always been given as a parable offered by some Native American elder or grandfather to his young kids. And it's a beautiful story, something that's always touched me deeply, particularly because it's about wolves, and wolves are my power animal. And so I very much resonate with wolf energy. Yeah, the idea that our thoughts are, first off, I think what happens is our minds, our physical brain structure is designed to keep us safe. It's designed to for survival. And so it's always looking for things that are dangerous. That's just a construction of the physical nature of our being. Our soul, however, knows deep down that there is no beginning or end to us. There's no limit to how big we can be, that we have, you know, infinite possibility, infinite creativity, all of that stuff. Our soul knows that. So there's this constant challenge between, you know, trying to listen to the soul and then listening to the mind that is trying to keep us safe. It's a balancing act. And I say, thank God for the soul, because at least when I listen, take a pause and just listen quietly, all of a sudden I see something that I didn't see before when I was, you know, paying attention to my mind and its processing. So the mind has its power. It is a tool, as Tommy has said so many times before. It's a tool, and a powerful one at that. And it doesn't have all the answers. You know, I'm sorry, some of the answers are going to come from beyond the mind, beyond the brain. And that's where the soul comes in. So all of us, I think we have to just trust.
The trusting, it's a beautiful lead-in, because as you were talking about the mind too, I use a southern metaphor sometimes about a ship sailing on the ocean. And think of a ship with all its, you know, sails and the mast and the crew and the captain. And the captain, to me, is my soul. It's my spirit. It's that silence. And when I get silent, I can hear it. It's the wisdom. It knows the way. It can sense and feel energetically. The crew are all the different screwy parts of my head that have gotten out of control. Now, at some point, the crew in my life mutinied, locked up the captain, threw him in the brig. I remember the day this happened, and said, "You shut up," gagged you, and then the crew just went nuts. And the guy up in the crow's tower, you know, the one that's up there looking out for trouble, was like, "Holy shit, look out! Oh, look out for that rock! Oh my gosh, look out! Oh, there's weather coming, there's storm coming," right? And it worried and it worried and it worried. The guy that took the job up in the crow's nest became a professional worrier. And so the rest of the crew is like running around, jumping, screaming, scrambling, jumping overboard, doing all sorts of nutty stuff. The ship is hitting rocks, it's getting caught in storms, it's, you know, getting grounded and getting pulled up. So I had to retrain the crew.
Yeah, but you had to get out. You had to get your captain out of the brig first.
I had to get my captain out of the brig, and I remember the day that happened, and then the captain started taking control and started, you know, training the crew to do their jobs. Yeah, we have to look out for trouble, but I don't need to be a freaking panic up in the crow's nest all the time. I don't need to be sleeping and worrying in my dreams. So that one, it just makes me laugh thinking about that crazy crew running around doing silly stuff. That's what our brains do sometimes, our minds.
Well, and you know, as you think about it, Tommy, what's the worst possible trouble that could happen in this life? You know, I think most of us would say, well, getting killed, you know, or dying or whatever. But you know what? I don't think my soul is concerned about that. I don't think my soul is worried about that at all. the soul is telling me regularly, yeah, there will come a time when your physical body is no longer necessary and you're going to just let it go and you're going to move on. How that happens, I don't know. You know, it could be just, you know, a nice quiet little passing. I could fall asleep one night and not wake up the next day. Or it could be something that involves more quote unquote violence. Like maybe I get hit by a bus or have a car accident or fall off my balcony and break my neck or who knows? Who knows? I mean, any of these things could possibly happen. But if I worry about all those possibilities, I'm going to stay stuck in my rut. I am never going to be ready to do anything. That's what's going to happen to me. And that's what's going to happen to you if you don't let that stuff go. Stay here right now. This is where the important stuff is. Forget about what could happen or what might happen because you just don't know.
You don't know. And you don't have to know. Somebody told a story once that if you're going to drive from LA to New York and you're going to start at night, you're not going to be able to tell every step of what happens along the way, but you're just going to see that, you know, 40 feet ahead of you in the headlights. But that's enough. And you know you can drive from LA to New York and not die with just the headlights and what's in front of you. So that's being present, being in the moment, just seeing what's coming and dealing with it and not worrying about, you know, the potential maybe snowstorm or tornado that, you know, the odd chances are may happen next to a mobile home park while I'm driving through that. Stop.
Yeah.
That's the crazy brain talking. and
you know what, Tommy? I mean, that is a great metaphor. I love it. I would like to actually imagine driving the whole way in fog, you know, that's so thick you can't see 10 feet in front of you. Then it all day and all night. But, you know, another metaphor that I really like is the one that I heard from Bo Eason. I'm sure he got it from somewhere else, where basically if you fly from Los Angeles to New York, you are off course about 100% of the time. And yet somehow you make it from A to B. How can that be? Well, it's because an airplane, just like your car, by the way, has to constantly correct. I mean, it's constantly being impacted by forces of weather, by wind, by, you know, various other things that are going on, that it cannot possibly stay 100% on track the whole time. So it's constantly correcting. Now, theoretically, if at any time the navigation system broke down, you could end up in Paris instead of New York. But that really doesn't happen. You know, so the fact of the matter is, more often than not, you get where you're going, even if you're not 100% ready. That's the amazing thing.
But you do have to know where you want to go.
That's right.
Because otherwise you don't know where you're going and you'll never get there. So all those stories of the car metaphor or the plane metaphor, or let's back up to the ship has a destination. Your pilot knows the port that your ship is going to. It knows the destination or one of the destinations on the way. And then the crew is responsible for making the corrections and guiding the ship and raising the sails, lowering the sails, steering it, watching out in the whatever the sextant, or in your car, you know, steering the wheel, looking in your rearview mirror, turning directionals on, following a map. That's your mind. That's intelligence at work. That's an intelligent computer working properly. And the one that's setting up fake flares and fake red things and ideas that something may go horribly wrong. The guy in the crow's nest screaming, chicken, you know, the sky's falling when it's not. That's the mind that we have to watch and pay attention to and say, okay, when that speaks up, when that voice speaks up, you do what David says. Yes, you look at it, you feel it. Is that true? Is that necessary? Maybe it was sometime in my past. I had to be aware of, you know, taking this turn. But is that still true? Do I need to be afraid of opening up to people? Is that still true? So asking that all-important question, is that still true, can help when they come up, recognizing them, pausing and asking and evaluating them. Is that true? Is that still serving my purpose? Is that something I want to hang on to anymore?
Yeah. So the question that I would like to leave people with today is this. Are you ready to stop getting ready? Are you ready to just step out? Let people see you for who you really are, and let people just marvel in your magnificence. It's not that hard for you to do. You are ready. You're perfect just as you are right now. And what you have to offer right now is perfect too. And after you deliver it once or twice or 3 times, you might see some ways that you can do it differently that might make it even more powerful. Great. But if you don't get out there and do it, you'll never make that learning. You'll never have that feedback. You'll never have that opportunity. So I commit to stop getting ready to be ready. I ask you to commit the same and just be ready.
I commit to being ready, and I'm ready right now, David. Thank you. This has been a great talk, and it's really shifted some energy in me for real. And I am ready to do some things that this morning I was still what-ifing about. Thank you.
Yeah. So what's up next week, Tommy?
Next week, Thanksgiving time, a time of giving thanks and gratitude. And we're going to talk about a topic called a generous helping. And it's a topic of how to take gratitude to the next level so it really becomes part of your being. So I may or may not be there. David will be running the show. And I'll see you guys in next week or maybe the week after. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, friends. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.